I never thought I'd be the guy telling this kind of story, but here I am, staring at the wreckage of what used to be my life. My name's Mike, 42, father of two, and until recently, I was what you'd call an average guy. I worked hard, paid the bills, did my best to give my family a decent life. Turns out, that wasn't enough. It all started with little things. My wife, Laura, had always been the kind of woman who liked a stable life. We met in college, got married in our 20s, and built something real, or at least, I thought we did. She was a teacher, loved kids, loved her job, and we had two of our own, Nathan and Sophie, 17-year-old twins, smart as hell and ready for college. For 16 years, we had what I thought was a good life. Nothing glamorous, but solid. I worked as a warehouse operations manager, decent pay, long hours, but it kept food on the table and a roof over our heads. We weren't rich, but we saved up, especially for the twins' college fund. Every extra dollar I made went into those accounts because I wanted them to have options, to have something I never did. Then, a year ago, things changed. At first, it was subtle. Laura got into this self-improvement phase. Started talking about rediscovering herself, taking yoga classes, journaling. Nothing wrong with that, right? If anything, I was happy she had a hobby outside of wrangling teenagers and grading homework. But then, it escalated. The yoga turned into retreats. The retreats turned into solo weekends away. And then she started spending more time with a guy named Aaron, some self-styled life coach she met at a seminar. A walking motivational poster with a six-pack, all about living authentically and finding your true purpose. At first, I thought it was harmless. Laura had always been into mindfulness and all that. But then, I noticed she was pulling away. Date nights? Too tired. Family dinners? Too busy. She was always on her phone, laughing at messages she never shared. When I asked, she brushed it off. Just a group chat with the girls. I wanted to believe her. I let myself believe her. Until the night my son walked into my office, phone in hand, pale as a ghost. "Dad, I think you need to see this." He handed me his phone, and my entire world imploded. I stared at Nathan's phone, my stomach twisting in ways I didn't think were possible. On the screen was a social media profile, Laura's. But not the Laura I knew. This wasn't my wife, the woman I'd spent almost 2 decades with, the mother of my children. No, this was someone else entirely. The profile name read Lara_Unbound, some ridiculous attempt at rebranding herself. The pictures? Nothing like the candid family shots I was used to. Instead, there were gym selfies, posed beachside shots in places she'd never been with me, and captions filled with pseudo-inspirational garbage. Reclaiming my power. Finally living for me. No more settling for less. And then, the worst part, the comments. Aaron was all over them. "Proud of you. Beautiful. Keep shining. You're finally stepping into your true self." And then, as I scrolled further, counting the days until our next adventure, my heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear Nathan's voice. I wasn't trying to snoop, Dad. I swear. But Mom left her laptop open the other night. I saw messages. They were planning a trip. What trip? My voice didn't even sound like mine. They're leaving. Together. And she took the money. For a second, I couldn't breathe. What money? Nathan swallowed hard. The college fund. My hands went numb. I shot up from my chair so fast that Nathan flinched, but I barely noticed. I ran to the bedroom, ripped open the closet doors. Her clothes were still there, but I could tell things were missing. The expensive suitcase I bought her for our anniversary? Gone. Some of her jewelry? Gone. The perfume she only wore on special occasions? Gone. I stormed back downstairs, my pulse a roaring drum in my ears. Sophie was on the couch, staring at her laptop. I barely had to ask. "Check the accounts." She nodded, already clicking through the banking app. A few seconds later, she turned the screen toward me, her face pale. "Dad, it's almost empty." I leaned over. The twins' college savings accounts, both of them, had been nearly wiped out. Dozens of withdrawals, small enough to avoid immediate suspicion, but adding up to an astronomical number. Laura had taken $80,000. And just like that, the world I had spent years building shattered in front of me. But here's the thing. I wasn't broken. I was furious. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth would crack. My wife, no, the woman I thought was my wife, had stolen from her own children to fund some fantasy life with a human motivational meme. She had betrayed us, and I was going to make her regret it. I turned to my daughter. "Sophie, you're smart. You're good with numbers. I need you to track every single cent she took. Then, to Nathan, you're a tech whiz. I need everything. Her accounts, messages, whatever you can find. They both nodded, determination sparking in their eyes. I was done playing the fool. Laura thought she could run off into the sunset with my kid's future. She was about to find out just how wrong she was. I barely slept that night. Instead, I sat in my office, staring at the banking statements, the messages Sophie had dug up, the screenshots Nathan had unearthed. Everything laid out in front of me like a roadmap to my wife's betrayal. Every dollar she stole, every hotel reservation she made, every damn message between her and Aaron, dripping with nonsense about manifesting their dream life together. I was done being blindsided. The next morning, I made 2 phone calls. The first was to my lawyer, Greg. Solid guy, straight shooter. I laid everything out. Laura's affair, the money she stole, the messages proving she'd been siphoning funds for almost a year. His response was immediate. You have her dead to rights. We need to act fast. The second call was to someone I never thought I'd reach out to, her sister, Melanie. Now, Melanie and Laura had never been close. Melanie was practical, a no-nonsense kind of woman who worked in finance. She had always thought Laura was a little too caught up in dreaming big and finding herself. When I told her what happened, she went quiet for a long moment. Then, she said, "Tell me how I can help." That afternoon, I got a text from an unknown number. "Unknown, you always played it too safe. You'll never understand what it means to be truly happy. I hope one day, you find your own freedom. Laura." I stared at the words, my jaw tightening. She didn't sound guilty. She didn't even sound sorry. She was convinced she was the hero of her own story. But heroes don't steal from their own children. Heroes don't destroy the people who love them just because they're chasing some hollow fantasy. And if she thought she could get away with it, she had another thing coming. It didn't take long for the first cracks in her new life to appear. Nathan, my quiet, methodical son, had gone into full hacker mode. He found out that Aaron wasn't just stringing Laura along. He was talking to at least 3 other women the same way. Different states, same pattern. They were all married, all well off, all being fed the same recycled lines about breaking free from their mundane existence. Nathan didn't just find this information. He sent it to every single woman's husband. And just like that, Aaron's whole operation started crumbling. Sophie, meanwhile, had been running calculations. She had a full spreadsheet of every cent Laura took, with interest added, alongside estimates of how much she owed in penalties for withdrawing early from the kids' college accounts. "This is leverage," she told me. "When we go to court, we don't just get it back. We make sure she pays extra." Greg, my lawyer, agreed. "She'll be on the hook for financial misconduct. The judge won't like that. This could swing everything in your favor, not just the money, but full custody." That was all I needed to hear. Laura thought she was winning, but she was about to lose everything. A week later, the real storm hit. Laura showed up at the house, unannounced. She strolled in like she belonged there, like she hadn't ripped our family apart. Her expression was smug, like she had won some kind of game I didn't even know we were playing. "I know you're upset," she started, "but you'll see. This is for the best. We were stuck, Mike, going nowhere. I needed to find happiness, and I know one day you'll be able to appreciate that." I stared at her, almost laughing at the sheer audacity. She actually thought I'd appreciate this? I took a slow breath. Then, I laid everything out in front of her, the bank statements, the messages, the evidence of Aaron's other women. Her face changed instantly. I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I saw the first flicker of doubt in her eyes, but she forced out a laugh. "You can't be serious," she scoffed. "You think a judge is going to care about all this?" I was just taking what I deserved. I leaned forward. "A judge is absolutely going to care, Laura. You stole from your kids, and you know what's going to happen next." For the first time, she looked uncertain. "Greg has already filed." I continued. "You're getting served tomorrow. You don't get half of this house. You don't get alimony. You get to pay back every cent you stole, with interest." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "Oh, and Aaron? He's losing everything too. Your little soulmate has been juggling other women, and Nathan made sure their husbands know. You think he's going to stick around when your money's gone?" Laura's face drained of color. For the first time since this started, she looked scared. I stepped back, my voice cold. "You should leave now, Laura, before the kids see you." She didn't argue. She turned and walked out. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt like I could breathe. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. But for the first time, I knew Laura was going to regret everything. Laura didn't just leave that night. She fled. I watched from the front window as she got into her car, gripping the wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. Her confidence, her smugness, it was gone. The weight of everything I'd laid out, the unraveling of her perfect little fantasy, had hit her hard. And it was only the beginning. The next morning, Nathan was up early, laptop open, eyes scanning something on the screen. I grabbed a coffee and sat across from him. "What did you find?" He turned the laptop toward me. "She's trying to move money," he said. I looked at the screen. Laura had a separate bank account I hadn't known about. Probably set up months ago, back when she first started siphoning from the kids' college fund. She had about 10 grand left, and she was trying to wire it somewhere. Nathan smirked. "I locked her out." I nearly choked on my coffee. "You what?" "Nothing illegal," he said quickly, reading my face. "I just used the same password she used for her old Netflix account. She never changes them. All I did was set up fraud alerts. The bank locked the account until she calls them personally." I shook my head, half in disbelief, half in admiration. "She's going to lose it," I muttered. "Yeah," Nathan said. "That's the idea." By noon, my phone was ringing. Laura. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, she called again. And again. Finally, I picked up, keeping my voice calm. "What do you want, Laura?" "You locked me out of my account," she screeched. "Your hidden account?" I asked. "The one where you were storing money stolen from our kids?" She sputtered. "That's my money. I earned it." I couldn't help but laugh. "Really? How? By manifesting it in your yoga journal?" "This isn't funny, Mike," she snapped. "I need that money." "For what?" Silence. I knew exactly for what. Aaron. She needed it because he needed it. I'd seen it in the messages. He had some big business expansion plan, and she was funding it. I could feel her squirming through the phone. "Mike, look, I know we've had our differences, but let's be civil about this, okay?" Her voice softened, like she was trying to flip a switch and make me forget everything. "You want to be civil now?" I asked. "After stealing from our kids?" She sighed heavily, dropping the act. "Fine. Just unlock the damn account." "No. You're being petty." I grinned. "Yeah? Well, you should have thought about that before you drained the twins' future to bankroll your midlife crisis." She cursed under her breath, then hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. That night, my daughter Sophie walked into my office, her phone in hand, face twisted with concern. "Dad, you need to see this." My stomach dropped. "What now?" She handed me her phone. It was a group chat from one of her friends. A video. I tapped play. It was security footage. Laura, standing outside Aaron's apartment, pounding on the door. Screaming. "You said we were in this together, Aaron." "Nothing." She banged harder. "I gave you everything. You promised." Still nothing. Then, the door opened, just a crack, and I saw Aaron's face. He looked annoyed, like this was just an inconvenience. Laura pushed the door open wider, stepping inside. And that's when the camera angle caught it. Another woman in the apartment. Laura froze. "Who the hell is she?" Aaron sighed. "Laura, I told you. I can't do this right now." Laura's voice shook. "You told me we were going to build something together." The other woman, half-dressed, crossed her arms. "Oh my God. You're one of them." Aaron glared at Laura. "I told you not to just show up here." "You said you loved me," she cried. The other woman scoffed. "He says that to all of them." And then, Aaron shut the door in her face. Laura just stood there, shaking, and then she lost it. She started pounding on the door again, yelling, crying. It took security to drag her away. The video ended. I handed the phone back to Sophie, exhaling. "She's unraveling," Sophie whispered. Yeah, she was. And she had nowhere left to go. 2 days later, Laura called me again. I debated ignoring it, but my curiosity got the best of me. I picked up. Her voice was small, weak. "Mike, I need help." I let the silence stretch. "Help?" She inhaled sharply. I made a mistake. I almost laughed. Now she realized that? But I didn't say anything. I don't have anywhere to go, she admitted. Aaron, he's not who I thought he was. And, her voice cracked, I lost everything. For the first time, I heard genuine fear in her voice. She had torched her life for a man who had discarded her like trash. She had no money, no home, and worst of all, no family. I thought about my kids, how she had hurt them, stolen from them, betrayed them, and now she wanted me to save her? I clenched my jaw. Laura, you made your choices, and now you have to live with them. She started crying. Mike, please. I cut her off. This conversation is over. And I hung up. She had burned every bridge, and there was no way back. The silence after I hung up on Laura was heavy, but not uncomfortable. For the first time in a long time, I felt in control. She had spent a year making me feel like I wasn't enough, like our life wasn't enough, only to realize, too late, that the fantasy she'd built in her head had collapsed around her. And now? Now she was drowning, and I wasn't going to throw her a lifeline. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Greg, my lawyer, worked fast. We pushed the divorce filing through with every bit of evidence we had, the stolen money, the affair, even the video of her screaming outside Aaron's apartment. Laura never even contested it. She was too busy trying to figure out where she was going to live. Word about her meltdown had spread. The other gym moms, the same ones who used to worship her new lifestyle, they dropped her the second they saw the security footage. Sophie said it was all over town. Even people who didn't know us personally had heard about it. Laura was officially a cautionary tale. She tried staying with a friend, but that lasted all of 4 days before she was shown the door. Then, she ended up begging her sister Melanie for help. Melanie, to her credit, let her crash on her couch, but under strict rules. No more spending sprees. No more rebuilding her life. Laura needed to get a job and start paying back what she owed. And for the first time in years, Laura actually had to work. She went back to the same teaching job she'd abandoned before she discovered herself, but it wasn't the same. People knew. Parents, coworkers, even students had heard whispers of what she had done. It followed her everywhere. She lasted 2 months before quitting. And then, just when I thought Laura had finally hit rock bottom, she dug deeper. It was a Friday night when Nathan burst into the living room. His face lit up with a kind of amusement I hadn't seen in months. Dad, he said, barely holding in a laugh. You need to see this. He turned his laptop around. It was a GoFundMe page. Title, Starting Over, Help Laura Rebuild Her Life. I blinked. You're kidding. Wish I was. I started reading. Life has a way of knocking you down when you least expect it. After an emotionally devastating breakup and an unfair legal battle, I find myself starting from scratch. I'm reaching out to my friends, my community, and anyone with a kind heart to help me get back on my feet. Any donation, big or small, is deeply appreciated. Thank you for your support on this journey of healing and rediscovery. I burst out laughing. This woman stole $80,000, ran off with some Instagram grifter, blew it all, got dumped, got caught, and now she was begging strangers for money? The audacity was unbelievable. Sophie, who had been scrolling through the comments, snorted. Oh my God. Dad, look at this. She turned her phone toward me. People weren't buying it. Wait, isn't this the lady who stole her kid's college fund? GTFO. Starting over? Maybe you should start by paying back your children. Karma's AB asterisk asterisk asterisk. Huh? Asterisk. I'd rather donate to a raccoon trying to buy a cheeseburger. I couldn't breathe. Nathan was crying from laughter. Laura had finally realized what the rest of us had known for months. No one felt sorry for her. Her post got so much backlash that within hours, she deleted it. But the screenshots? They never disappeared. Her past was now permanent. Meanwhile, life for us was getting better. With Laura out of the picture, the house finally felt peaceful. Sophie had taken over handling the finances, she had every dollar accounted for, and we were rebuilding what Laura had stolen. Nathan, on the other hand, had picked up a small tech gig. Turns out, there's good money in cybersecurity for people who are a little too good with computers. And me? I was free. I had spent so many years carrying Laura's weight, trying to fix problems she created, trying to hold together a marriage she had no respect for. Now, I didn't have to. I was seeing someone. Sarah. A woman I met through a mutual friend. A kindergarten teacher, smart as hell, and nothing like Laura. She was grounded. Real. No delusions about chasing excitement at the expense of the people who loved her. The twins actually liked her. And that was the biggest win of all. One night, a few weeks later, I got one final text from Laura. Laura, do you ever think about what we had? About what we built? I miss it sometimes. I miss us. I stared at the screen. I thought about our life. About every sacrifice I had made for her. About every betrayal she had made in return. I typed my response. Me. I don't. Then, I blocked her number. I had one. And Laura? She would never be able to rewrite what she had done. The finality of blocking Laura's number didn't just feel good. It felt like freedom. For the first time in over a year, I wasn't waking up to a crisis or a new mess she had created. No more damage control. No more wondering if my marriage had ever truly been real. She had written her own fate, and I had no intention of ever looking back. The kids and I had fallen into a new rhythm. Sophie, in true Sophie fashion, had created an entire financial recovery plan. She had the spreadsheets, the charts, and even some kind of color-coded system that I didn't understand but completely trusted. Between my job, her planning, and Nathan's new tech gig, we had already restored almost half of what Laura had stolen from their college fund. Nathan, on the other hand, was thriving. He'd always been quiet, more comfortable behind a computer screen than in front of people, but something about seeing justice play out had lit a fire in him. One night, he walked into my office and casually said, "So, I think I might start a business." I raised a brow. "Yeah? Doing what?" He smirked. "Online security consulting. You'd be surprised how many people need help with digital protection. If I can track down Mom's mess, I can do it for other people too." I stared at him for a second before laughing. "You're gonna make more money than me one day, aren't you?" "Absolutely." Then, there was Sarah. What started as coffee dates turned into something real. She was kind, patient, and most importantly, drama-free. She had a son, a few years younger than the twins, and understood what it meant to put your kids first. The first time she met Sophie and Nathan, I had been nervous as hell. I didn't need to be. After dinner, Sophie gave me her verdict. "She's normal. Keep her." Nathan just nodded. "She's better than Mom." Low bar, but still. It wasn't exactly a ringing romantic endorsement, but I knew what they meant. Laura had been so consumed with chasing excitement, with finding more, that she had destroyed everything good in her life. Sarah? She didn't need constant chaos to feel alive. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't either. Then came Laura's final downfall. I hadn't heard from her in months, but that didn't mean I wasn't keeping tabs. She had burned every bridge. The gym moms, her friends, even her own sister had finally had enough. And Aaron? Oh, Aaron was long gone. He had moved to another state, running the same game with a new batch of married women looking for adventure. From what I'd heard, he was still posting the same cringe motivational quotes, still living in cheap apartments, and still relying on other people's money. But Laura? She wasn't glowing anymore. Her GoFundMe failure had been the final nail in her social coffin. And then, Sophie, ever the detective, found something new. She was on a dating app. Not just any dating app, though. It was one of those exclusive, high-value singles sites where people tried to fake being rich and successful to attract wealthier partners. And Laura? Her bio was filled with lies. She wasn't a teacher. She wasn't a devoted mother. She was an entrepreneur, a life coach, a woman looking for a fresh start. Nathan nearly died laughing when he saw it. What's she gonna do? Coach people on how to ruin their lives? Sophie grinned. I bet she's charging people to manifest their dreams. We didn't intervene. We didn't need to. Laura was doomed to repeat the same cycle over and over. And this time, we weren't part of it. One evening, I was sitting on the back porch, watching the sunset. The door slid open, and Sophie stepped out, followed by Nathan. "We need to tell you something," Sophie said. I set my drink down. "What's up?" Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. We changed our last names." My breath caught. Sophie gave me a small, determined smile. "We're officially done carrying Mom's name." For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then, I pulled them both into a hug. I didn't need to say anything. They already knew. We were free.